Hello, back again. We are still on Dark Forces. I really need to pick up the pace on this game. It seems to be 2 weeks per level because the first week I stumble through it absent-mindedly and can't figure anything out, and then the next week I've already stumbled through it absent-mindedly and can finally figure it out. If you're joining the stream for the first time, first off, thanks, welcome. I'm going to be playing a lot of LucasArts era Star Wars games, the story modes for them all. Looking for changed and lost lore, like this one being the Dark Troopers, the Death Star plans with Kyle Katarn. And Kyle Katarn actually follows through quite a few games, so that'll be fun to follow his adventure. I do skip the cutscenes because I'm a little bit worried about getting a copyright claim. That's also why the music is off. Kyle Katarn's terribly named ship, the Moldy Crow. Alright. Little loud for that. Hey, welcome back, Chris. Thank you for driving the conversation last week. Yeah, the Emperor should be displeased with my not even apparent lack of progress. I am just not making progress. I thought I'd be through this game in like a month, month and a half. We're 8 weeks in, I'm pretty sure. I mean, even here, I'm already lost. I'm just in a room. Oh, it's because it went backwards. Slightly in my defense is every time I look away to look at the chat or something, I get messed up because my brain can't process two things, apparently. Yeah, that's how I feel. I get on this right after I get out of work, and it's just like, okay, time for like a brain reset. Nope, stay back, Django. The cat's getting me killed now. I usually have some not so fun stuff that I have to take care of after the day job, so taking this hour break on a Monday is like a nice way to reset the drive to want to keep doing nonsense. Sometimes it backfires a little bit where I don't want to get off after the hour, I want to just keep moving through the game, or when I do get off I want to go pick up like Requiem or Arc Raiders or something. But I kind of make a deal with myself that if I get enough stuff done, I get on Arc Raiders or Resident Evil or whatever in the evening until I crash. Hit a switch here, not exactly sure what it does. Now it calls this incredibly unsafe elevator. Guy must have forgot that I was just shooting him. That was pretty rough. The elevator just moved me through like a shooting gallery. Yeah, I'm sure everything is different once you bring kids into the mix. It's just me, my wife, and we have 5 pets, but they are pretty lazy by the time it gets to be like 7, 8 o'clock. They look forward to going to bed more than I do. Nope, stay back. Okay, open that panel in the wall. The looking up and down, I mean, I'm glad we found it, but it is not convenient. Come on, open the wall. No, I'm gonna kill myself. Frustrating. Well, this hole in the wall had 4 grenades, but it took me like 5 to open it, and I almost died, so it was not really worth it. Having some debate on ISD versus Providence. Who would win without starfighters? My position is Providence would swamp the ISD with torpedoes. I have to actually look up Providence. Providence class dreadnought. Yeah, I guess depending on the era, and depending on the Star Destroyer. Just looking at the Wikipedia with the armaments, it does seem like it's more heavily armed than like a standard Victory or Imperial class Star Destroyer. So you're probably right. There we go. Gotta get the chat back up. Hang on, technical difficulties. There we go. Yeah, I would say you're probably right about the Providence. And whenever you see Dreadnought, to me it sounds like a step up, because you have like the Star Destroyers, but then the Executor was, I mean it is a Star Destroyer, but it's a Executor class Super Dreadnought or something like that. So it kind of stands apart in itself. Alright, where were we? Gotta push the button. Okay, I'm remembering the problems I had last week where I could just never find... I'd gotten codes to put in all of the keycard doors, but I just couldn't find them at a point. Yeah, the ISDs... It doesn't seem like the ISDs were intended for as strict ship-to-ship combat. And it's actually funny you brought that up, because it's either Wednesday or Friday I have it scheduled for. I plan my content like 10 weeks out. I had just written and recorded a video on what I consider to be the seven core Star Destroyer types. Not like the best Star Destroyers, but like the ones that kind of pave the way for the Star Destroyer program. And there's one called the Tecton, where they eliminate all the cargo bays and everything not ship-to-ship combat. So the Tecton might have, the Tecton class might have a better chance. But just the torpedo tubes alone, like you're saying, I don't know if they would... I don't know if any Star Destroyer would hold a candle to that, except for a Super Star Destroyer. And that I don't even think would be proton torpedoes, just sheer bombardment of laser cannons. If you added in the complement of ships, it might give the Empire a little bit of an edge, just because the Imperial era ships and pilots were better than the Separatist era. Okay, I don't have any of the key cards yet, so we got this blue one here to remember. Tector, yeah. The volume Providence draws its roots from the Dreadnought class. It's Star Wars naming BS, which is a little over, okay, like 1,100 meters. That's similar in size to the Star Destroyer. And Star Destroyers around like 1,200 meters. I hate those turrets. It's like using the grenades to get grenades. Now I'm dying to get a free life. Yeah, the Vulture and Tri-Droids both do carry missiles. I would say one tie is probably worth, like this is just kind of off the top of my head, I would say 5 droid fighters, so 48 to 240. They might be able to edge it out if they're like real top of the line pilots, but it's just probably pure attrition would wear down the Empire in that case. I couldn't remember how many was in each ship complement. I like doing the channel to learn more lore, because I felt like at a point I like kind of knew the lore when it was expanded universe and I was keeping up with it all, new books and everything like that. I probably didn't know everything, but as a kid I kind of figured I knew a lot of it. And then it kind of got away from me and grew beyond me, and then with canon and everything, it's hard to remember all the specific details. So as much as I like doing the channel to get the new lore or the lore that I missed, keeping it all in my head has been a challenge. 1,600 meters. Okay, so a mile long. Victory is 900, Vendors 1137. Persecutor 1,600, Allegiance 2,200. Still trying to intercept missiles while trying to fight starfighters. Oh yeah, for sure. But having a cloud of fighters in between the two capital ships, maybe not as big a deal for the Separatists, because they have ships to lose if they accidentally hit their own. And the Empire obviously doesn't care about their pilots. But it would be, they'd be hurting themselves more. So yeah, your initial thought was probably correct that the older ship would win just on attrition. I don't think the advancements in deflector shields were so much so that they'd be able to outpace it. Just walking around with a mortar, no big deal. I think this is the door with the turrets where I died immediately. Let's try the mortar. Probably blow myself up beyond more than them, but oh well. Well, I got the extra life, so it kind of breaks me even on going down there at all. And we use the blue key card on the blue floor. That's probably just to teach us what we're supposed to be looking for. It opened this little hidey hole. And I'm pretty sure this floor is done now. Oh, cool, got him. I don't remember that from before. I have no idea what it did. I hate these gateway doors because sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, so you kind of just wait to get hit. Yeah, I'm right with you, Wraith. I love the Jedi Academy, Jedi Outcast games. I remember Academy a little bit more, but it's probably just because it's slightly newer. I haven't played any of these since they were basically new. Yeah, when you put it that way, Chris, the Star Destroyers really don't seem that formidable in context. I mean, we know they are just from the characters' reactions to them, or like the Battle of Endor. The Star Destroyers kept them all in at bay. They weren't supposed to be taking them out ship to ship, but it is kind of a funny idea. All right, pretty sure this is the prison area. Yeah, that I kept coming back to over and over, even though there's nothing here after your initial pass. I really need some health. I like that these aliens are locked up in prison, and I come to let them out, and their first instinct is to attack me and not help me. Everything in this level is magnetically sealed, so I keep hitting myself just as much as the enemies. They're just trying to eat me. ISDs are more dangerous against fighters than ISD-2s, which makes sense since they were designed to fight in the Clone Wars. Well, the Star Destroyers didn't really come out to the Empire. There was a Venator-class Salt Cruiser, I think it was largely based on, which I think was developed for ship-to-ship combat. And I think the Imperial 1 was more about... I mean, it was formidable for sure, but I think it was more about carrying and deploying troops and armor and TIE fighters. And then the 2 became a more well-rounded ship, if my memory serves. Because those came after the Victory 1 and 2 that were more about, like, occupying planets and imposing the Empire's will. Yeah, I'm gonna end up dying at this stupid door. Hey, Mad Taoist, welcome back. You're probably further than I am in this game already. Yep, the door's gonna kill me. The Victory class was supposed to be the main Republic Star Destroyer during the Clone Wars. That's how it reads when you read pre-prequel material. Maybe. That I couldn't say for sure. I haven't read those since forever. The ISD did come out towards the end of the Clone Wars. I would argue that the ISDs don't have a good AA. The ISD is designed as a population suppression ship and occupier rather than a combat vessel. Yeah, that's what I meant by like troop deployments and stuff. I thought there was a clear distinction, or more of a distinction, between the Venator-style ships and the Republic cruisers. Finally. Well, now I'm kind of stuck in limbo. There we go. It's ridiculous how much time that one tiny little enemy took. Oh, yeah, you'll pass me eventually. I play an hour a week and I'm not good. As you can see, I'm already down to 1 life. The door killed me. If the ISD were actually designed for a Clone Wars ship, then they should be coded in AA and have a far heavier standard fighter complement. The Venator better than the Victory class, you're saying? Yeah, I think they were trying to kind of do like a jack-of-all-trades thing with the Victories, but my memory says that the first Victory was very much like basically a glorified transport. I mean, I'm downplaying it a little bit. And then with the 2, they kind of gave it a little bit more ship-to-ship capabilities. But it wasn't really until the ISD 2, or the Imperial Class 2, that they really found their place. And one cool thing that I found researching this Star Destroyer video that's coming out this week, the Imperial Class 2 was the first time they like really nailed the systemization of it. So they could crank them out of assembly lines and outfit them the same way, deploy them the same way, because the Empire just had to make systems for everything in order to be able to control the whole galaxy. Red key. Okay, gotta get back to the beginning now. Hopefully not die doing it. Is that everything on this floor? Nope, no, it's not. The ISD actually has more carrying capacity if you changed out vehicles and shuttles for Starfighter. The internal volume would allow for 1,200 ties. Yeah, if they brought 1,200 ties in against against Grievous's ship, then it would probably take it out. Yeah, even at a point, to your point, Wraith, about in-atmosphere flight, old lore, like Expanded Universe lore, is probably the exact same source that you're talking about. I can't remember the source, but it's probably the same thing. Star Destroyers had to be at full thrust in order to stay up in an atmosphere, but then they have, like you said, the one landing, or they have, in Rogue One, hanging over Jeddah to get the crystals out, and then you got Thrawn's Chimera and Ahsoka going right over the witch's tower. I mean, it's all very cool visuals, so I'll sacrifice some lore for that. But it is kind of funny because early on in my channel, like probably 1 or 2 months in, I did a thing on Star Destroyers, and I put that fact in there that they can't be in atmosphere. And then I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, they show this happening several times. It doesn't make any sense. Luckily, I caught that one in time and deleted it. Yeah, 15,000 droid fighters would be a lot. I guess your only bet then would be to try to kill the capital ship and hope that they were all still on one brain, but by episode 3, even the battle droids weren't, so they probably weren't either. It makes more sense in, our heads that they can't land, but that kind of stuff, because it's largely a fantasy series, I'd say it's fantasy more than sci-fi. Just because it's in space doesn't necessarily mean sci-fi. I let that stuff go because it's cool. You'd think just like the wake of the ship alone would do damage. Oh, I think this is an issue I had last week also, where it looked like you would die if you fell in here, but you don't. Unless all these mines hit me, then I will. Pretty tough with the gray on gray on gray. The Executor's 12 miles long. Where do you land that thing? Ah, crap. I thought I had them all. Oh, that slow process was all for nothing. Down to 0 lives, so we're probably restarting. Alright, code keys 4 and 5. Pretty sure there was a code door here. Sword and sorcery with spaceships. I also love it, and you're absolutely right. Small scene in Rogue One that really annoys me. There's an X-Wing and several TIEs flying past really close to the ISD's engines, taking no damage at all. The X-Wing games and Rogue Squadron. Yeah, that's the kind of... Thinking about the real science of it doesn't make sense. I mean, there's oxygen in space half the time. George Lucas has even said, there's a quote, there's oxygen in space where I want there to, when I want there to be. So any of those kind of like nitpicky things I can let go a little bit easier. Even was it in The Last Jedi where Poe kind of does like a drift, which makes no sense, not an atmosphere, but it looks kind of cool. So unless you're breaking the story, like The Last Jedi has issues, don't get me wrong, but unless you're like breaking the story, a little bit of bending the rules on science in a fantasy series just kind of... Games punish you for being meticulous and slow. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I try to take my time with things, and then it kind of gets like over complicated, or I don't act quick enough, and then I end up dying. It made a kind of a crunching noise. That's what it was. And I got the infrared goggles, even though I'm pretty sure I already had them. And don't know when they'd be useful. Cubic volume of a standard complement of ISD is 513,145 cubic meters. Venator has 282. Victory 425. Wow. The Star Wars universe has an ether and basically operates with 19th century physics. It sounds pretty close. Sorry, a side job email. I should be focusing on the game. Work and wait, we're playing Star Wars. Get out of here. Okay, so that's probably for this one then. Oh, come on with the mines. The Juggernaut tanks. Oops, the volume for the victory. I'm not sure what you mean. Juggernaut tanks? I thought these key cards were the key to getting out of here. Didn't mean to make a pun, but the way to get out of here. It just kind of gives you stuff, but like the shields they give you barely make up for the shields that you lose getting them, so I'm not really sure what they're for. Alright, we got living enemies, so that's always a good sign. Two more key cards. That last door, or the last code place, did have two keys that went into it, so maybe I just have to find that first one again and put the codes in. I think last week I was just trying one code per set. Oh, actual tanks. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking tanks like holding tanks. You meant literal tanks. Yeah, absolutely. I thought those were really cool. I like the repulsor tanks. I actually liked how the droids were deployed also. That was really cool. Then that scene holds up. Some of the CG, you're starting to see the lines and see the cracks and stuff, but the battle droid stuff really holds up, I think. Use the sound of the living. Obi-Wan's telling Luke to just follow the trail of screams. That's the path to victory. Yeah, I don't think the scaling makes a ton of sense either, but I also, I don't think George Lucas or the people at ILM ever expected that we would be sitting here 50 years on trying to measure the ships in meters and see how that stacks up with their cargo carrying capacity and all that. Yeah, that scene when the special editions first came out, I thought that scene was cool because it introduces Jabba before Return of the Jedi. So you introduce someone in the first act that pays off in the third. But it doesn't make any sense, like you said, with the bad stepping on. And also, they gave Greedo all the information you need from that scene. So actually keeping Jabba hidden makes more sense. Yeah, he puts a wanted thing on this guy, and then the guy literally steps on his tail and hurts him, and he's okay with it. I saw a cool fan edit online on YouTube where somebody had, in the Phantom Menace, they had that little tray thing with 4 legs that walked, and it projected Sidious to Newt Gunray so he could talk to him in the palace in Naboo as a hologram. Somebody replaced Jabba in the scene with a Jabba hologram on that, and Han just walks around it talking to it like it's no big deal. I'm like, that's the solution if you're gonna put this scene in. That makes way more sense. Yeah, I do think the bases were folded up. If you look into, there's a expanded universe. It's kind of like written like a manual on the Death Star, and the Death Star had all these different city segments in them, and they were all prefabs, and that's the same segments they would use for bunkers or establishing bases. You know, if they needed a certain kind of base, it was inside the Death Star because it was so massive, but they could take that same kit essentially and put it out in a world or on a moon or something. So you're probably right about that with it being a prefab kit, and then they just get all the stormtroopers and everything to unfold it and set it up. I think we need red floor. I don't believe that they're struggling as a whole. I think individual ones are struggling, and I think there needs to be a little bit more oversight, which is why I'm excited for Dave Filoni to take that job, because I think he's a good big picture storyteller. I think he's going to do good things looking over it. It's kind of like Kevin Feige's role when Marvel was still good. You don't need one person telling all the stories. You want more voices in there just for variety. But you do need the oversight to make things make sense. Okay, this is where we got stuck last week. In this little stupid hole. I have to move that door or whatever it is. There we go. I'm loving The Mandalorian. I'm excited for the movie. I think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to be that surprising, so in some ways I'm a little bit more excited for Starfighter, but I do think it's going to be good. I think they're saving some stuff that's going to surprise us, because I also think that they know there's a lot riding on this movie working. It's the first Star Wars movie in 7 years, and the last one did not exactly excite people. Well, I guess you could say it excited people, but not in the way that they would have wanted. I liked the Star Wars story approach. I thought Solo was a good movie. I know it was a mess financially because they shot it twice, but that's their fault business-wise. How would I do this? Does that move this? That does move this. That's what I couldn't do last week. We just went under the elevator. That's fun. Who built this? Why does this exist? Oh. Okay, well I lived, but I think it's going to be game over right here. Oh, okay. I don't think I was supposed to go down that low. And we're somewhere where we already were, so all that was for nothing. I'm totally with you, Wraith, on bringing back other writers. I mean, I love that they brought Timothy Zahn back when they wanted to take Thrawn into canon. He got to do a new Thrawn trilogy, and I think they're doing Thrawn pretty well. My only complaint with how they're portraying Thrawn now is in Ahsoka, You know, the look is cool. I like that his troops with him are like zealots, like they're all about Thrawn. They don't even care about the Empire, it seems, anymore. It's all Thrawn. But my only problem with this portrayal there is if that was your introduction to Thrawn, you see him as a guy who's really calm and okay with losing troops, because every single time he goes after the heroes, he loses and says acceptable losses because he's learning stuff. But if you want this guy to be the master tactician, you have to tell people who are new to who this guy is that he's a master tactician by having him outthink and win. You can't just have him lose troops and say acceptable losses and be like, oh man, this guy's scary. Chris, I'm also with you on the trailers. That's not even a Star Wars problem. That's just a franchise movie problem. And from what I read, the biggest problem is that who makes the trailer is not often the person who made the movie, so they spoil stuff. Because they're trying to put the most exciting stuff up front. The newer run of novels, I agree, have been very hit or miss. The ones I like, I absolutely love, and the other ones are kind of a pain to get through. Last year had... I keep getting the names mixed up. It's like Mask of Fear? Yeah, Mask of Fear is really awesome. It's like right in the Andor timeline. It could be like a spiritual successor to Andor. It's really, really good. And then Master of Evil, the Darth Vader book that came out really late last year, is also excellent. It shows a lot of the faults in using people of the Empire, but what I really loved about it was it shows Vader early in his time in the suit, so you get a lot of Anakin Skywalker in there, and I don't mean that like he's still kind of a good guy, because he's not, but you get a lot of him leading his troops and wanting to be in charge, and him not really taking crap from people, and you get a lot of the Anakin personality coming through, which is very, very cool to me. Tarkin was good. So was the Catalyst leading up to Rogue One. That one was really good. Yeah, if you liked Andor, you're going to like Mask of Fear. It's basically a guarantee. Once again, I have no idea where to go in this. This game makes me feel real stupid every week. Yeah, I'm just walking in circles. I've been meaning to get back to the High Republic. I didn't love all of it. I'm still in Phase 1, but I liked what I liked, and I was pretty excited for the Acolyte because they were bringing Vernestra Rowan to live action. And she was one of my favorite characters in the books because a big issue I have with the High Republic era is a lot of the Jedi are in like romantic physical relationships, which they're just not supposed to be. They're Jedi. They're monks. So I didn't love that, but her character kind of never saw the point, and I liked that. I thought it was interesting. Door killed me again. But I didn't like the Acolyte, and I especially didn't like her, so I had a hard time getting back to novels where I'm following a character who I know in her future becomes a piece of crap and lies to the Jedi and ruins everything. The Aftermath trilogy I remember being pretty good. I read it when it was new, so maybe it didn't age so well. But I thought that was good. But the theme I'm seeing with what I'm liking in the new books is anything attached to Legacy Star Wars, which obviously is the best Star Wars, so that makes sense, but something like the High Republic could have been really interesting and cool because they're forging new ground, but you have to forge it correctly. And they did do a lot right in the book series, not the Acolyte show, but the book series, from what I read, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot to like in there. They do a lot of stuff with how different Jedi perceive and touch the Force, which I always think is cool to explore. Their main big bad is kind of like Space Marauders, Space Vikings. They're actually not all that compelling to me, but they introduce some other like side bad guys that I think are a lot cooler. And another thing that I like about it is you know, it's cool to read Master of Evil, but you know Vader's never going to die. You know this guy, if he gets a little too close to Vader, probably is. Like, because you know where the pieces go. So in the High Republic forging new ground, kind of nothing is sacred, and they can take people off the map. And at one point, they do. There was one novel in particular where a bunch of main characters go down, and I did not see it coming. And that's actually what I originally paused reading the series, because I'm like, crap, who do I root for now? And then the Acolyte came out, and then kind of ruined that era for me for a while. But I'd like to get back to it with more of an objective look. No bad ideas in Star Wars, just bad execution of the idea. Yeah, that's probably more likely it. And a lot of it feels like designed by committee. You know, the core 6 movies, while there was different writers and directors involved, it was all out of the mind of George Lucas. It was all his creation with his final say. And I hope Dave Filoni fulfills that again. Not that I think he's like the second coming of George Lucas or whatever. And we could be honest and objective that George Lucas wasn't infallible in his movie making. He's not a guy who should be writing dialogue. But having that consistent voice and consistent thought with someone who actually understands the franchise and the Force, I really appreciate. I find too many offshoot stories, even from the Expanded Universe days, treat the Force more like having superpowers, or like spells in Harry Potter, where it's like, oh, you learned this move, and it's like, it's not really how the Force works. It's an energy field. It's something you either work in harmony with or you bend to your will if you're on the dark side. Hi, Luna. The dog's waiting to go. She doesn't understand that we had to do a live stream. We used to have Leland Chi. Whatever happened to him, I haven't heard from him in years. The name is very familiar, but I'm blanking on who he, or I guess she, is. Looking it up. Oh, the continuity. Okay. That's a cool job. Bunch of the early books and now Legends were still trying to figure out what Star Wars was going to be. Yeah, absolutely. I love the Expanded Universe, Legends, whatever you want to call it. I use the two interchangeably. I don't think Legends is a bad thing just because Disney coined it. It's whatever. I actually kind of like to think of them as Legends. It's kind of like what Dave Filoni was saying, where exact details on story don't really matter as long as you're not changing the core of it. Like, if in one telling Luke has a yellow lightsaber and another one it's green, it doesn't really ultimately change it. I prefer consistency, as long as you don't get too crazy about it and still tell good stories. But yeah, a lot of the Expanded Universe got messy because people were trying to figure it out and forge a new path. So to do a reset, in theory, and not even a reset, because the Expanded Universe was never actually canon. It was George Lucas's movies, and he just kind of let them do their thing. No, Kelly, you gotta stay back. But, to say, like, okay, this is now Legends, and we're going to do a canon consistent thing going forward, in theory is not a bad idea, but like Mad Taoist just said, like, it's not a bad idea, but the execution wasn't bad, because then you immediately start retconning your own stuff, or stepping on your own story. So it's like, if you're going to do a reset, and your excuse is consistency, then be consistent. I like the fact that we have different eras of the EU. 90s stuff feels distinctly different from... Oh, yeah, absolutely. A hard reset bringing back almost no characters would have been the best. Well, the reset just meant that the only actual canon was George Lucas's 6 movies, the Clone Wars cartoon show, and I believe that was it. I'm almost positive that was it. Like, I don't think the Ewok made-for-TV movies even really counted. And I don't mind them. I mean, I wish they would have done it more, actually. Going to Legends or the Expanded Universe and cherry-picking the best bits, or taking stories that people loved and cleaning them up and sanding down the rough edges if you had to, and bringing them in. Or, like, bringing a character like Thrawn. That made total sense to me. As long as you don't change entirely who it is. I've done some videos on Mara Jade, and people are like, oh, I wish she would come in, but with what they did with Luke Skywalker, she doesn't really work anymore. So if you bring in a Mara Jade-like character, but without the connection to Luke, what's the point? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying too, Chris. It's like, if you're going to bring them back in, like Thrawn, do them justice. But if you bring them back in, change them, and make them crap, then why bring them back? It's the same thing like when Hollywood in general buys like a franchise or remakes a movie. If you're going to take this name, like World War Z, people knew and loved the book World War Z. So you buy the rights to World War Z and you make something totally different. So who are you serving? Because anyone who knows World War Z and is willing to pay for the name recognition wants it to be the thing they know. And if people don't know what it is, they don't care. Just call it something else. Well, I know people were up in an uproar, and I don't disagree with them when Kathleen Kennedy was saying, like, we have no source material, and I think she was complaining it to Marvel that they have, like, hundreds of years of comics to go off of, but Star Wars doesn't. It's like, but you do. You had a slew of talented writers for 20 years cranking out stories. They weren't all amazing, but there's a lot of good in there. So as much as I don't want to see them just take everything that we've already read and make a show or movie out of it, because that would get old, you had some guidelines to go off of. The bigger issue is a lot of the writing doesn't seem to understand the franchise or the characters. Like, I don't think Rey is necessarily a bad character, but you have to do the right things with her, and to me the only logical thing is she has to fall to the dark side, because she's so insecure and unsure of herself and worried about losing her friends or disappointing them, and she lost her family and she's disappointed in that. And then she finds out she's a Palpatine. You could do a really interesting thing with that where it's like nature versus nurture, and she's letting her insecurities get the best of her, and then you need Finn to bring her back. Like, you can... We have to play the ball where it lays. I didn't love the sequel trilogy, but it's what we have. They're there. They're not getting rid of it. So if you're going to pick up with these characters, there's ways to start course correcting. You can't undo what's done, but you can do better going forward. Because you had a good cast. I mean, John Boyega and Oscar Isaac are phenomenal. I haven't really seen Daisy Ridley in much outside of Star Wars, so I don't know how good she is, but I don't think she was bad. I don't think it's her fault the writing was inconsistent. They didn't have a plan. Yeah, I had a hard time with that at first too, Wraith, where I had the expanded universe stories in my head, and I'm sure that was the same for a lot of long-term Star Wars fans. But I knew ever since I was, like 13, 14, reading a novel a week of Star Wars, that all of this was good, but if George Lucas said we're doing it this other way, it was the other way, because it was never actually his Star Wars. They just kind of did it with Lucasfilm's approval. So while I was familiar with all those stories, and it was a no-brainer to me that Luke Skywalker would rebuild the Jedi Academy, New Jedi Order, and all that stuff, it never it seems like arguing semantics because none of it ever actually happened, but in the context of the story, it didn't actually get laid in concrete. When I started reading the new novels post-reset, I did start with the Aftermath trilogy just because I was trying to pick up the timeline continuity-wise and see what happened after Endor. And there's a lot of similar elements with like the New Republic and all that. Just not exactly the same. I think they could have done more interesting things with the solo kid, the 3 solo kids. I actually don't hate Kylo Ren. He's one of the brighter spots for the last 2 of the sequel trilogy. I actually enjoyed The Force Awakens. I know it's a rehash, it's a remake, but that seemed like the smartest move to bring Star Wars into a new era and get a new generation of kids into it was by doing what worked. I'm glad they didn't just remake the entire original trilogy, but I just wish they had a plan and did it better, obviously. But Kylo Ren I thought was interesting, but what I would have liked was, from what I heard, the original plan for Kylo Ren was no redemption, where he keeps thinking Rey's going to join him, she keeps thinking he's going to join her, and they never actually come to an agreement on that, and he stays evil. Especially when you have him kill Han Solo. He has to stay evil. He killed his dad, tried to kill his mom, and then we're supposed to just be like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. I think if Kylo Ren stayed evil and we got to explore the idea of a dyad more, it would have been a lot cooler. Come on. I'd like to go through this door when it stops blinking. Oh, this isn't that one. Crap. Now it's on me. I also liked the dynamic where Anakin Solo at first was not Force sensitive and felt left out by the whole thing. That's a really interesting dynamic to explore. Actually, to the point where when it comes out that he is in the expanded universe, I was a little disappointed because I actually thought it made it a little bit less interesting. Even though they do interesting things with him, probably get killed by this door again. The problem is when the shield goes down, it goes down for about half a second, and if you don't run in immediately, you die. Makes sense for... Yeah. I guess you could argue that the Ben... Leia naming her kid Ben makes a little bit more sense after the Obi-Wan series. Which was a bit of another misfire. I like all the stuff with Obi-Wan, Anakin, Vader. Reva, I actually think, could be an interesting character if she was introduced in like a comic or her own story and didn't take time away from Obi-Wan Kenobi, the titular character who we showed up to see. I don't want too many people knowing who Vader is, but that revenge kick I did think was an interesting concept. Again, like Mad Tao has said, not a bad idea, just poorly executed. Yeah, there was, what's the book where... It's right on the tip of my tongue. It basically comes out that Leia was the daughter of Vader, and the galaxy finds out, and so they, like, doubt her ability to, like, be a new Republic leader and all that. And she kind of has to make peace with it. That was a really cool concept. You could also figure that would come up in her Jedi training, that, like, you can't hold on to this as much as... I mean, Vader committed, or was part of committing mass genocide, like mass, a planet, billions, that would be a hard thing to forgive, but for the hatred not consuming you, it's an interesting idea. Oh crap, we're at the hour already. I really wanted to finish this level this week. I'll hang out in there a little bit longer, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Mostly just because I get to a point where I just don't know where to go. That if you stack enough poorly executed concepts on top of each other, you go out of business. Disney has been hemorrhaging money across the board, not just Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the industry as a whole is changing. Like, I don't think Disney's, like, uniquely evil or uniquely whatever. I was actually excited when they were buying Star Wars. Like, if George Lucas had to sell it, obviously, first choice would have been he keeps it, he keeps making movies, and he lives to be 300 years old. But if he had to sell it, I was initially excited that it was Disney because, to me, that name meant quality. You know, like top animation, top whatever, like they just put out hits. It's what they've always done. So I do think it's more of a sign of the state of the entire industry than just one company. It's also this streaming wars thing where everyone's trying to get everything on their streamer. So something like the Obi-Wan series that should have been a solid type movie has to be stretched out and stretched out and stretched out, and there's just no reason for it. I gotta find those two guys with the two other key cards. I should have screenshotted it. Yeah, the New Republic using the Imperial stuff, I could see them not loving the idea, but you could bring up cool moral debates with that. It doesn't have to be like a total washing out of it. You have this military machine that you're taking back over. You have to use it to a degree. And you could have the arguments of like, well, should we demilitarize? Should we put these out of commission? Should we recycle them? And it would have to happen slowly. Yeah, progress, not so disjointed, because the New Republic wouldn't have the resources to just rebuild everything from scratch. Just like the Empire didn't, but the Empire put the Clone War... Palpatine put the Clone Wars into play so that he had stuff to take and build off of. That's actually part of my sequel to the sequel trilogy pitch, where a lot of the New Republic wants to demilitarize, and then you have Poe on the other side, who's not a villain, he's still very much with the Republic, but he thinks the idea of getting rid of the military is nonsense, because what if there's another enemy? It's kind of repeating the story of Mandalore, where they wanted to become pacifists, and then just increases more war. But it's like, well, you don't have to be one or the other. You can not be warmongers, and but not also be total pacifists where you get taken over. Yeah, I could see the New Republic wanted to transition away from using things that you would associate with the Empire. You know, like we wouldn't really want to be flying planes with swastikas on it after World War II, even if they were good planes. I mean, that's fixed by a paint job, so it's not a great example. But it should take time, especially because the New Republic would have the citizens' interest in mind, where the Empire was just, we need to take everything from everybody and make what we want. They didn't care about the citizen, where the New Republic does. You'd think I would remember the mines by now, but I don't. Yeah, the dogs are looking to go. Pretty soon, Luna. I don't know if you guys can see her. Yeah, Wraith, that's a great example. Free gear is free gear, yeah. And in some ways, like, taking it and repurposing it is, like, kind of a poetic statement, too, where, yeah, we're not doing that thing anymore. It's a tool. You know, a Star Destroyer itself is not evil. Now she's got a cat cornered. Hang on 1 second. Leave her alone. Don't do that. Oh, haven't had to do that in a live stream yet. Alright, I think on this next death I'm going to have to call it, unfortunately. Gonna be past 4. I gotta post today's regular video. I got some work on my comic to do. And I gotta make dinner. Oh, I don't think I was supposed to go in the elevator yet, was I? I gotta find the red keycard doors. It was that they used the expensive, excellent tanks instead of for breakout. I just like how the new Republic fleets in the EU are a wild mix of Rebel and Imperial stuff with completely new stuff. This shows it. Yeah, I agree with you, Wraith. I think having a mix for a while and letting it be sloppy would be cool. I think the non-action side of those stories would be really interesting. Put a spin on a Star Destroyer that softens it a little bit, because it's not supposed to be a vehicle of intimidation and occupation anymore. And if you jump forward like 100 years, yeah, sure, get rid of them, but... Yeah, they definitely had a lot of superior tech, and I'm glad they didn't have the population to sustain it. Okay, now I'm going in circles again. I got the red key cards, the other 2 red key cards. Yeah, ships, guns, equipment, everything. Yeah, for sure is. I could see from a fantasy series movie thing to a degree wanting to separate the eras visually to make the storytelling clear. Oh, I can't even get this keycard because I don't have enough health. If I run in there, it does at least 5 health, so I can't get back out. Yeah, it's over here. Yep, can't do it. Alright, well, that was another great conversation week, so thanks to you guys, but very, very frustrating game week. Did not beat the level again. Chris, I could say things to that last comment, but I'm going to leave that alone. There's a lot we could get into in current politics that I just don't want to touch. But guys, thanks. That was awesome. Always love talking Star Wars. Thanks for coming and watching the stream and hanging out. I will be back next Monday. I really hate this level. I'm actually starting to not like playing this game anymore. The war itself, newer things are needed to counter. It's in peace when the ships and equipment linger. Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, the need is going to push the technology. The show For All Mankind does that really good. It's not military related. Some of it ties in. But it's the concept of if Russia beat us in the space race in the 60s instead of the U.S. winning the space race, how the technology would have progressed differently. So for the first few episodes, I wasn't really into, because I'm like, why would I spend all this time watching an alternate history when I could devote it to watching real history and like learn it? But then once you get into the characters and see where the show's going and what they're doing, it's really, really interesting. And every season jumps a decade, so you like see the progress and the trajectory being different. It's pretty cool. Big recommend. But yeah, thanks again, guys. I will be back next week at the same time, and we'll just keep chipping away.